So let's now proceed with the centroid of plane areas. So probably last meeting or session, we already know how to solve for the area of a bounded region. And this may be solved using the horizontal strip, which in the formula is the area is equal to y top minus y bottom dx from x1 to x2, or using the horizontal strip, which is um, in the formula of area is equal to x right minus x left dy from y1 to y2. So again, we have two different ways of solving our plane areas. So try to forget what we discussed last meeting, which is about polar area, because there's no topic for locating the centroid in polar regions. So we go back to the rectangular coordinate system, and we're going to look for the centroid. So probably you may know a few centroid formulas, um, especially if it's a regular polygon. So for example, you have here a square, and then of course the centroid is at the center. So probably the distance towards the centroid would be s over 2, and then this one is s over 2. Then let's say if it's a rectangle, that would be the width over 2 and then the length over 2. So these are just basic centroid formulas in basic figures. So square, rectangle, circle. So probably those are a few common polygons that we know about in locating its centroid. But how about if the area is an irregular shape figure? So how are we going to get the centroid of our plane areas? So especially if it's bounded by two curves, let's say this one is your x and y plane, then it's bounded by these two parabolas, then you have to locate the centroid of this bounded region. So I think that would be the case in this topic. So locating the centroid of plane areas having irregular shape figures. So not the common ones. So most likely the composite figures, itong mga curvy figures. So those are what we're going to look for in this topic. So to start off, so I think we need to understand where the formula for centroid of area is coming from. So actually it's coming from the concept of center of gravity. And I think this topic will be important later on when you reach your statics of rigid bodies, which is, I think, that would be on your third year, first semester. So most likely you're going to locate the center of gravity in materials such as steel, bronze, concrete, etc., so on and so forth. And I think you have also this one in your physics subject. So center of gravity or center of mass, that's how we call it in different subjects. Now, in solving for the center of let's say the centroid of an area, it's a similar approach in solving for the center of gravity. So the centroid of an area is analogous to the center of gravity. So meaning the process is the same, or rather the formula looks like the same as the center of gravity formula, but it's in terms of area rather than in terms of weight or mass. Diba? So center of gravity of a body, most likely we are comparing it with a mass or a weight. Diba? Okay, since we are under the influence of gravity, so most likely what we're going to encounter in our formulas are forces, and most especially since it's center of gravity, so most likely we are referring to a weight force, diba? So instead of using weight, so most likely in our formulas, we're going to replace the weight with area. And again, the process would be similar in uh, similar with the case of the center of gravity of a body. Okay, so first moment of an area is used to locate the centroid. So first moment of an area. So probably you are confused what moment means. So in physics, this one is torque. So it's force times a moment arm. Diba? So most likely it's a torque in physics. But in engineering aspect, we call it as moment because due to the twisting behavior of the material, that's why we call it moment. And most likely you'll appreciate this term once you get to your higher subjects, such as your statics, your strength of materials, um, theory of structures. So this term will be recurring most of the time in those subjects: moment, centroid. So that will recur in the higher subjects. But for now, let's try to solve first the center of an area. So this one is the formula for the centroid of an, let's say, the center of gravity of a body. So to clearly define the formula presented, this one here is the summation of moments about y-axis. So meaning you are taking moments or taking torque in the y-axis, or you are taking the torque or the moment arm in the y-axis aspect. Okay, so to properly understand the formula presented, the left-hand side is bar x times the total weight. So meaning this is the total aspect of the body, totality of the body. So total weight, and then the location of the center of gravity in terms of x. So of course, if when we're trying to locate the center of gravity, we're going to locate the center of gravity using the x and y coordinates. That's why you have bar x and bar y. So bar x and bar y will be the defining coordinates of your center of gravity. Okay. Then on the right side equals summation of x multiplied by delta w, or in integral terms, that is the integral of x times dw. So this is on the right hand side, it's the sum of individual components. So that's how you try to define the equation. So this one is the same as the y bar. So left hand side is the total aspect of the body in terms of bar y. And then the right hand side is the sum of individual components in terms of y aspect as well. So for us to clearly understand it a bit more, so try to imagine a, let's say a square lamaron, square. So of course, this one is the total weight, diba? Let's say this one is the total weight of the square. And then the centroid is this one, bar x. So the right hand side is the sum of the individual components. So let's say we're going to divide our square into multiple smaller squares. So let's say we have multiple number of areas or multiple number of weights. So let's say this one is the centroid is in this location, the other one is in this location, so on and so forth. So you're going to add up all of this one. So let's say this one is one centroid, the other one would be another centroid, the other one would be another centroid, and this particular weight, so on and so forth. And then you're going to sum it up all. And the sum of these individual components will result to the left-hand side of the equation, which is bar x times the total weight. Diba? So total is equal to the sum of the individual components. So I think you get the idea, diba? So the same goes for the y aspect. So for example, this one is your bar y, the centroid of the total square. Now the individual components would be this one, diba? The centroid of this one, then the centroid of this one and again, so on and so forth. The sum of these smaller squares would result to the bigger square and its resulting location of its centroid. So I think that would be the total um, conjugate way of understanding the formula. Now this one is in terms of weight. In terms of um, area now, so this would be our formula. So the formula would be now instead of this one, this would create bar x. So instead of weight, this would become the total area is equal to the integral of x sub c, meaning that would be the centroid of the individual components, or let's say the centroid of your representative strip, and then differential area. Same goes for bar y. Okay, so why did I place here differential area? So again, differential area would be defined on whatever strip you're going to use, whether it's a vertical or horizontal. That would define your differential area. Okay, so later on, once we go to our problem solving, you're going to see how we convert dA into its individual components. Okay, so some properties of centroids. So notice number 3 that the total area and its location is the sum of the individual components or its smaller pieces, diba? Okay, and this would be the formula for our centroid of area. So coming from the concept of centroid of center of gravity, so we now get the idea of that formula and convert it in terms of centroid of an area. So notice that this one became this formula. So instead of weight, we replace weight with area. Okay, so again, with this one, the differential area would be defined further with a particular strip you're going to use, whether it's vertical or horizontal. So for you to be not confused, just put sub C here and then sub C here. Okay, so sub C and then sub C. Okay, so as per the illustration above, this one is the representative area, and the location of its centroid would be expressed as x sub c and y sub c, diba? So take this one as an individual component, and of course you're going to sum this individual component using integral, diba? That's why we have the integral from x1 to x2, integral from y1 to y2, because muna siyang purpose. So we just take one representative of your area. So again, whether it's a vertical or horizontal strip, because that's what we learned in the previous topic. So taking into that account, so you're going to represent the whole area using just a strip. So again, whether it's horizontal or vertical strip. So muna siyang formula, you have to memorize this formula. Two formulas for centroids. Of course, once we enter the problem solving, if the problem is going to ask for the centroid of the area. So of course, you're not going to use one formula only. You're going to use both formulas because we are locating the centroid. You're going to solve bar x and you're going to solve bar y at the same time. So you're going to use both equations or both formulas. Okay? Okay, of course, you cannot locate the centroid if you're going to solve bar x only. How about the y component, diba? All right, so I'm sorry. So let's now try to solve example number one. So in example number one, I have given the graph already. So to save some time. So again, I leave the graphing aspect to you since again the discussion is not about graphing equations, but it's about determining the centroid. And again, try to graph your equations as much as possible. So dapat with evidence, di ba? We don't want your graph to be magically appearing in your paper. Okay, I won't be giving credit to those, or I won't be giving credit to your answer if the graph magically appeared in your paper. So dapat with solutions ya, di ba kay? Of course, di man ta super bright, di ba nga, maka-generate ta og graph directly. We need to do some steps for us to be able to create a graph, whether it's in shortcut method or in manual method. All right. So let's say this one is our graph and these are the points of intersection. So again, dapat kibawa mo solve sa points of intersection. So these are -4 and then 2. And then the other one would be 8 and 8. Okay, so notice that we are going to use the vertical strip here because if I try to draw the vertical strip at the very end, so the upper is touching the blue one, the lower is touching the red one. Same goes if I put it on the far end right side. The upper is blue, the lower is red. Okay, same as the middle one. Blue upper, red lower. So if I'm going to try to use the horizontal strip, so let's say I'm going to place it in the middle first. So right is red, left is blue. So if I'm going to place it at the top, right is red, left is blue. But if I place it at the very bottom, notice that it's not consistent anymore because the right side is red, the left side is red also. So meaning I cannot use the horizontal strip in this problem. So that's why I presented the graph already with the vertical strip in the bounded region. So again, di ta makagamit og horizontal because at the bottom part of the strip, if I place the strip at the bottom part of the bounded region, the right side and the left side are the same equations. And again, this would give us a zero integral equation. Diba? X right is red minus x left is red. That would give us 0. And again, you need to be consistent with the placement of the kuan, diba? Okay, since we are representing the entire bounded region with one strip only, so dapat it's consistent all throughout the bounded region. Dapat on top and bottom would be touching the same equation. If horizontal, the right and the left would be touching the same equation. You have to be consistent since you are representing an entire area using one strip only. All right, so of course, as the first step before we go to the formula is we always try to find the area first. So again, if you try to write the formula, bar x area is equal to integral of x sub c differential area. Then the other one would be bar y area, and then equal to integral of y sub c differential area. So we always try to look for the area first before applying it to the rest of the equation. Okay, so since we know how to solve for the area, so area is just equal to, again, since we're using vertical strip, this would be equal to y top minus y bottom dx from x1 to x2. And again, it's clearly defined in the equation. So we already have converted it in terms of y, or rather in terms of x. So y top is equal to the red, rather the blue graph, that would be x over 2 plus 4, and then minus x squared over 8, and then dx, and then that would be from negative 4 towards 8. Okay, so again, try to plug this one in your calculator and give me the answer. So again, since this one is area, so don't forget to write the unit square units. Okay, so what would be the answer?
Thirty-six, sir.
36.
Okay, so this one is 36 square units. Okay, so this is just the first step, huh? We're just looking for the area, not the centroid yet. So at least this one is also a review of your previous topic, diba? Okay, so this would be the solution. So again, since we can use our calculator, so you can just directly plug in the equation in your calculator. I think all you have to be aware of is, I think you need to properly, so in my part, so I want to try to put as much as parentheses as I can, okay, para I can isolate the functions properly. Diba? So labi na if na negative sign, so probably maglibog ang calculator if wala may parentheses kay it has to be distributed man, diba? So try to be aware of those kinds of scenarios. So that's why I try to place parentheses in my functions kay para ma-isolate siya properly ba. And also aside from isolating the terms properly, so if you can try to simplify your expressions as much as possible, so you can do that because it also helps your calculator in giving you the answer faster. Okay, so since we have now solved for the area, the next step would be solving for bar x and bar y. So depende ninyo kung sa inyong unahon, bar x ba or bar y. So of course, bar x lang because in the order of the alphabet, maguna man ang x, diba? Then y. X, y, z, diba? So let's try to place the area here. Area is equal to 36 square units. So for bar x, the formula is bar x times the area, then equal to the integral of x sub c, then differential area. So again, as what I have mentioned earlier, differential area would be defined on what particular strip you are using. So since you are using the horizontal, rather the vertical strip, so this would be further defined as bar x times area, integral of x sub c, then of course defining the differential area, that would be length times width, diba? So that would be y top minus y bottom dx. So mura mog nag-solve og area kaduha. But dili siya area kaduha lang kay na may x sub c from x1 to x2. So next question is how are we going to define x sub c? So given this vertical strip, nanay centroid ang inyohan, di ba? So again, the formula is the total is equal to the sum of the individual components. So let's say this vertical strip is your individual component, di ba? So differential area is this one, the shaded region. It's already defined by y top minus y bottom times dx because that's length times width of that differential area. The centroid of this one is dire, diba? So let's say this one is a rectangular vertical strip. So the centroid is in this location. So x sub c is referring to the centroid of your individual component. So that's what I said earlier, di ba? Katong mga gagmay nga mga squares. So you have to sum it up all. But in this case, since the vertical strip can represent the entire bounded region, so ato lang i-drawing isa ra ka buok vertical strip, di ba? Dito mag drawing og daghang vertical strip because again, we can already solve the entire area using integral equation. But if it's irregular polygon, so probably mano-mano, di ba? Because we know the formulas of small squares and but this one it's an irregular shape figure. So that's why we try to represent it as one vertical strip for the entire bounded region. So x sub c is defining the centroid of your individual component, which is the vertical strip. So going towards this distance is x units only. So meaning x sub c is just equal to x units, unknown x units, di ba? So try to imagine this one as a line lang siguro na line. So let's say this one is your line, di ba? Then this one is the centroid. So going towards this particular point is x sub c. And again, in terms of x variable, so that would be x units, di ba? X units. So that's why this one can be now replaced into the equation. X bar x times 36 units is equal to the integral of, so again, instead of x sub c, because again, x sub c is just defining us that x sub c is the centroid of your individual component or the centroid of your strip you are using, the centroid of the strip that you are using. So x sub c is x now, then multiplied by y top, which is the blue graph, x over 2 plus 4, and then minus the red graph, which is x squared over 8, and then dx. So that would be from negative 4 going towards 8. All right. So you may now use your calculator. So try to solve the right hand side first, and then divide by 36 afterwards. And that would be your bar x in units only because it's distance, diba? Distance towards the centroid.
X bar is equal to 2 in mine, sir.
So that would be 2 units. Okay, so sign na kayo siya, no? If na formula. I think the struggle here will be the graphing aspect. I think in all of the topics that we're going to discuss, the struggle part will be the graphing aspect because everything is formula based, and then you can use your calculator. So murag kana ang struggle ra jud is ang pagkuha na jud pag-graph sa equation. Okay, so this is 2 units. So again, notice in the drawing. So try to ignore this one. This should be x sub c. So again, the centroid going towards the vertical strip, that is your x sub c. So again, what distance is going towards the centroid of your strip? That would be equal to x units. So that's why in the solution, x sub c becomes x only. So of course, we try to represent it as x, not x sub c because we are integrating with respect to x, diba? So line sa kayo if inyong x kay na ay subscript. So mana siya. Okay, so since we know now your bar x, we now go to your bar y. So again, sorry, kita na answer nun. Gubaw na dyan niya ako ang pen. Okay, so again, area is equal to 36 units, square units. And then bar x is equal to 2 units. So let's just try to write down what we have answered so far. So this time is we're going to solve bar y now. Then the formula is in this format, y sub c and then dA. So again, since we're using the vertical strip, this can be further defined as bar y times the area is equal to the integral of y sub c multiplied by y top minus y bottom dx from x1 to x2. So again, mura na mo nag-solve area again, but this time, nala siya added na variable which is y sub c, or on the previous solution, that's x sub c. Okay, so this time is before we try to answer our formula. So since we have the area, we have y top, we have y bottom, we have x1, we have x2, what's left for us to determine is y sub c. So this time, going back to the vertical strip, this one is a centroid. So this one should be our y sub c. Okay. So now, since we are now in the y aspect, so let's try to create a line here para dili kayo maglibog nga no it's on that particular solution. So this one is y sub c. So ako ra siyang gi-define into a line lang. Now, let's say this one is y sub c. So to get y sub c, notice that we have a portion here touching the red graph. Diba? So kanina, our bar x is not touching any graph, diba? So this location here is the distance going to this point is defined by the red equation, which is y bottom, diba? On the top portion, diba? If you want to look for this particular point, we're going to use the blue equation, which is y top. Okay, so to look for the distance between in between the line, so mag-averaging ta, di ba? So to look for y sub c, this is going to be y top plus y bottom all over 2. So nakasabot ra mo sa ako ang pasabot, di ba? So murag na siya ba? So y top and then you add y bottom and then you divide by 2, it will give you the center of that particular line. So ako lang siyang giline ha kay if I'm going to represent it as a strip, basin maglibog mo kay strip siya, di ba? Tambok siya na siya width ana. So meaning our equation now becomes y top bar y rather area is equal to, so instead of y sub c, this becomes y top plus y bottom over 2, y top minus y bottom, and then dx from x1 to x2. So ano y top plus y bottom man siya divided by 2. So of course, let's go back to the basic number line. Let's say 0, then 1, then 2, and then 3. Then let's say 4. So let's say you're going to look for the midpoint of 1 and 4, di ba? Let's say the midpoint between 1 and 4. So saan mo ninyo pagkuha sa midpoint, di ba? It's going to be averaging 4 plus 1 divided by 2. And then this would be the center or the midpoint. Diba? 2.5. So magana na po siya nga concept. It's midpoint nga kuan. Midpoint na theorem or midpoint na kanang idea. Okay? So kasi maglibog mo nga ano, it's that way. So again, in the bar, in the x sub c, so since going towards this location, we are not touching any graph, and then we're not touching any line or curve. So meaning we can just define it as x units directly. But for your y component, since if we are using the vertical strip, so we can clearly define the location of y sub c using the two equations given in the problem. Diba? So again, in terms of x, it's not touching any kuan, diba? It's in the x portion, it's not touching any graph because again, we are using the vertical strip. So just try to recreate a problem para mas makasabot mo. Okay, so answering the problem now. So bar y times 36 is equal to the integral of y top first. That would be the blue graph, which is x over 2 plus 4. And then plus x squared over 8 divided by 2. So balag maglibog mo sa akong way of kuan basta at least I can clearly define the parts in my equation. So basin sa inyo, it will depend on your comfort where you're going. If di ka mo hilig og mga parentheses, okay ra sad kayo basta as long as you arrive at the correct answer. Then multiplied by y top minus y bottom, so x over 2 plus 4, and then minus x squared over 8. And then this is the x from negative 4 going towards 8. So again, try to solve the right hand side first and then divide by 36. And this will give you bar y in units. Okay, so what will be the answer? Or the calculator is still loading. So this one is 3.2 units. Okay, so this would be the answer. Okay, so again, try to simplify your equations as much as possible so that you can help your calculator with answering the equation faster. So instead of plugging this one, so try to simplify it and then plug this one instead. All right, so any questions? So most likely your final answer would be therefore. So tulo ka triangle, tulo ka dot, ana. So the centroid is, so since it's a coordinate, so you can try to express it in this manner, is equal to 2 and then 3.2. So you may have your final answer as this one. Okay, so questions before we proceed with the next example. Okay, so no questions. So let's proceed with the next problem. So in this problem is we're going to look for the centroid of the area bounded by the curves y squared equals 4x and then x equals 0. So x equals 0 is the y-axis in another term, and then the line y equals 4. So in this problem, we can also use the horizontal strip. So I'm going to show you the two methods, the horizontal and the vertical strip. But first, we're going to solve this one in the vertical strip. So again, this can be solved using the horizontal strip also. So if you try to imagine the placement of the horizontal strip, top, middle, and bottom, it's touching the same equation, red and green. Then for the vertical strip, from left to right is touching also the same graph, purple and then red. So that's why you can use both strips here. But again, if you're going to use one strip, so dapat one strip should all the way. So area, bar x, bar y, you have to use one kind of strip. So it's either horizontal strip or vertical strip. Okay, so again, we solve first for the area. Area is equal to, so again, since it's vertical strip, that would be y top minus y bottom dx from x1 to x2. So again, dapat gibawa mo graphs and equations and look for the points of intersection. So this one is at 0, 0, then the other one is at 4 and 4. Okay, so next would be the formula now. So y top is the purple graph, that would be equal to 4 only, minus y bottom, which is equal to 2 square root of x, and then dx from 0 to 4. And then the area would be equal to, okay, so how much is the area? Hello? Pamodya?
5.33, sir.
So it's 5.33. But in fraction, it's 16 over 3 ba no? Or
Yes, sir.
5.33. So again, that would be square units. So why do I want it in fraction first? Because since I'm going to incorporate the value of the area in the main formula, so dapat gusto kong atibok lang sa ako ang value. It's not the ones rounded off or unsa. So that's why I prefer it to be 16 over 3. But if it's the final answer, so okay lang ang decimal siya. But again, since I'm going to incorporate the area in the main formula, so I prefer to plug in 16 over 3 compared to 5.33. But of course, sa inyo ha, pwede rin sa 5.33 kay di man siya na matter. But sa ako lang ng style sad because I want it to be whole lang sa or not rounded off. So I want to round off at the final answer, Jude. Okay, so this is 16 over 3 or approximately equal to 5.33. Okay, so next is bar x. So again, bar x, so area is equal to 16 over 3 or 5.33 units, square units. Okay, so bar x is equal to area and then x sub c and then differential area. So bar x times the area. Again, since we are using vertical strip, this is y top minus y bottom dx. Again, going towards the centroid of your vertical strip, it's only x distance. So x sub c is equal to x. So this is from x1 to x2 there. So bar x multiplied by 16 over 3 and then x and then this would be y top is 4 minus 2 square root of x dx from 0 to 4. And you now have bar x. Okay, so what would be the answer?
1.20 akong nakuha, sir.
So this one is 1.20 or 1.2 units. Okay, and this would be the solution, 1.2 units. So again, try to, this one should be x sub c. Okay, this time we now solve for bar y. So area is equal to, again, 16 over 3 square units. And then our bar x is now 1.2 units. Okay, so bar y times the area is equal to y sub c times the differential area. And this defines further into y sub c times y top minus y bottom dx. So again, if you imagine your vertical strip as a line, and let's say this is the centroid, so we're going to use midpoint formula, diba? So that's why it's we're going to use midpoint formula. So y equals this one is y top, this one is y sub c, this one is y bottom. So using the midpoint formula, this is now bar y times area is equal to y top uh, so y top plus y bottom over 2 and then y top minus y bottom dx and then from x1 to x2. So the formula now is times 16 over 3 and then this one is now 4 plus 2 square root of x, the y bottom, and then divided by 2, then multiplied by y top minus y bottom. So this is 4 minus 2 square root of x, and then this is the x. So that would be from 0 to 4. And then bar y is now equal to blank units. So try to plug this one in your calculator.
Three, sir.
Okay, so this one is equal to 3 units. And then this would be the solution. So again, you may try to simplify your equations. So again, try to correct this one into y sub c. So again, instead of plugging this equation in your calculator, so if you try to simplify the equation and plug this one in your calculator, so I think mas dali magawas ang 3.0 nga answer compared to the previous or the upper portion nga equation. So again, try to write the final answer as bar x and then bar y is equal to 1.2 and then 3.0 because it's asking for the centroid. Alright, so that would be for the vertical strip. Now, let's go to the horizontal strip. So, mark another na po siyang nakuha, di ba? So, starting with area. So, our review. So, x right minus x left dy from y1 to y2. So, in terms of equation now, so this becomes x right is equal to the red graph, that is y squared over 4. Then the left one is the y-axis, or x equals 0. Then from 0 to 4 yapon. Then the area would still be the same, diba? So this would be 16 over 3 units. So notice that your horizontal strip has given you an easier expression compared with the vertical strip. So muna siyang inyong i-discover later on sa exam. So unsaon nyo, what is the strip that is best to use in the problem? So what's best to use, whether it's vertical or it's horizontal? So try to observe the given equation. So try to express the equations in x, in y, and then try observing the bounded region if I can apply vertical strip and horizontal strip. So of course, if vertical strip RAM apply and then the vertical strip will give you a difficult expression, so wala tayo mahimuan na, diba? Because we cannot solve it using the horizontal strip. So you're forced to use the vertical strip in that manner. But if you have a choice, let's say the problem can be solved using both vertical and horizontal. So try observing the given expression and then convert it kung asay masayon tanahon, di ba? Kung masayon ba using the horizontal or masayon ba using the vertical. So muna siya inyong i-discover dyan sa inyong problems. So kung tanawin niyo, di ba? Mas simple na lang equation. It's just the integral of y squared over 4 compared to the other equation. So this one is still 16 over 3 square units. So try to verify this one in your calculator. Okay, so let's go now to the bar x of the horizontal strip. So bar x times the area is now equal to x sub c times the differential area. So again, if we try to expand dA or define dA furthermore, so x sub c, and then since we are using horizontal strip, x right minus x left, and then dy from y1 to y2. All right, so this time, um, since kibaw naman ta sa area sa x right and x left, what's left for us to define is the x sub c. So again, if we try to imagine a line here, we try to convert the strip into a line. Then let's say this one is the midpoint. So we have two endpoints. So again, use the midpoint formula nga, nga theorem, di ba? Or na idea. So sa vertical strip, ang katong y sub c ang katong midpoint theorem. But sa horizontal strip, ang x sub c na sad ang inyong midpoint. Okay, so this becomes, so now this is now x right plus x left all over 2, and then x right minus x left dy from y1 to y2. So I think you can now see the difference, diba, sa inyong vertical and horizontal strip. So bar x is now area. Let's now try to write the equation. So 16 over 3 is equivalent to, this one is y squared over 4, then plus 0 over 2, and then y squared over 4 minus 0, and then dy. So since there's no more space, so just try to simplify this one on your own. So the answer would still be the same, 1.2 units. Okay, so try plugging this one. Okay, para pinaka-simple yun siya, di ba? So I think a few lines won't hurt if you're going to simplify your expressions. So, di ba, mas better mag-simplify compared sa mag-integrate mo manually, di ba? So for y's, so for bar y, so y sub c and then differential area. So defined further as bar y times area is equal to, again, since we're using a horizontal strip, y sub c times x right minus x left dy from y1 to y2. So again, y sub c, let's say we convert your strip into a line, then this one is the centroid. So going towards that location is just y units, diba? So that's why y sub c is equal to y only. So area, then the formula is now, so mara siya katong x sub c sa vertical strip, diba? X sub c is just equal to x. This time, since it's in the horizontal aspect, so y sub c is just equal to y, and then multiplied by x right minus x left. Okay, so this is now from 0 to 4, and then y times y squared over 4, and then minus 0 dy. So this should be 16 over 3 dy. Let me. Okay, so most likely the simplified version would be 16 over 3 is equal to the integral of y cubed over 4 dy. And then bar y is just equal to 3 units again. All right. So it's 3 units.
Excuse me, sir.
Mm.
Inig, mga tanan ako, sir ba?
Sige, sa man.
Inig input kaya sa calculator, sir. Mugamit ni wire X lang gyapon.
Oh, because I think the default variable sa inyong calculator is x.
Ah,
So even though that you're solving for y, so in terms of x lang siya sa calculator because that's the default variable sa calculator.
okay, okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Kaya di ba, murag, ini ka shift solve ninyo, ang ibutang dyan sa calculator is solve for x, di ba? So murag muna siya inyong kuha sa calculator. So kibawa ka mo shift solve ka. Shift solve equal sign mas na. Basta this one, if you want to get the bar y directly, so I think the command there would be shift solve and then try to plug in a value of x na 1 lang siguro. Kaya I think mangutana na siya value sa x, magmana siya x, then ibutan lang x equals 1 lang ana. Yan, plug in niyo sa calculator, that would be alpha x and then the area, let's say 16 over 3. And then so yun na yung equal sign, alpha equal sign mas na or shift equal sign. Basta na siya dito equal sign sa babaw. Na equal sign and then integral 0 to 4. So na siya definite integral sa inyong calculator. And then alpha x cube na siguro. And then probably siguro you try to solve first the right hand side before solving the left hand side kay if puro alpha x basta niya ang iyang i-solve kay kanirang ang unknown x ang i-solve niya different variable ba ni siya ang power y and then y niyo nga variable. So try to solve the right hand side first using the definite integral nga kuan. Katanya ani nga figure sa inyong calculator. So since dx man yung default, so dapat in terms of x siya. So instead of y cube, alpha x cube siya. Alpha x cube over 4. Ano. So if di mo kibaw using mag-shift solve, so ay lang siguro shift solve kay dapat isa ra ka unknown variable lang naa sa equation. Okay, so so this would be the problem set that I'm going to publish later. So again, the real dilemma in your applications would be the graphing aspect. There's nothing else but the graphing is the real hard part of this part. Or we're done na to, the real hard part of this part. So basta that's the hardest the hardest aspect of the application of your integral topics ang pag-graph jud. So most likely sa akong experience all over the years of teaching, sa graphing jud masangit ang akong mga students because they don't know how to graph, they don't know how. So In using the formula, it's super simple. But in graphing equations, bali, medyo tagilid kayo. So sa assignment, medyo okay sa assignment kay you can verify your graph using online tools, diba? But in the exam, usually katong pag-check na ko sa mga blue book before, is that di sila kaabot sa equation or sa final answer because at the very beginning, sayop na ang graph. So if sayop ang graph, so everything will be wrong also. So you have, so especially in number two, number two, try to be observant in number two. So most likely, let's say you're going to create a triangle, diba, with three vertices. Then take note, our vertical strip and horizontal strip would be, so let's say vertical strip won't be applicable in this one because ang kaning vertical strip dire would be another equation sa line na sa dire, di ba? But for horizontal, it's consistent all throughout. So dapat kibaw mo create sa inyong equation sa line and equation sa line given 2 points. Diba? So marinana ba? So 2-point form, slope intercept form, di ba? Marinana naman ba? Okay, so I think if you don't understand clearly the topic, so let me try to summarize the formulas for you. So first, if you're going to use horizontal strip, I mean vertical strip, the formula would be bar x times area. So instead of x sub c, I'm going to shortcut it. X times y top minus y bottom dx from x1 to x2. And then for the bar y, this would be um, y top plus y bottom divided by 2. Then y top minus y bottom dx from x1 to x2. So that's for the vertical strip. For the horizontal strip, this would be the summarized formula. If you don't want to go through the process of defining differential area, so this would be the summarized version. So in bar x, so from y1 to y2, that would be x right plus x left all over 2, and then x right minus x left dy. Then for bar y, area would be equal to still the same y1 to y2, but this time it's y times x right minus x left dy. So notice the two different kinds of strips. So murag similar siya but nagka-shift-shift lang siya, di ba? So if vertical strip, the bar y is using the midpoint aspect nga idea. In horizontal strip, the bar x is using the midpoint theorem sa iyang formula. So I think you can see, you can see the difference between the two. So another point to take on is that since first you're going to solve for the area, next for bar x, next for bar y. So all three should be consistent. All three should be used with only one kind of strip. So again, either vertical strip or horizontal strip. So one strip all throughout the process. So if vertical strip, dapat vertical strip sa area, vertical strip sa bar x, vertical strip sa bar y. If horizontal strip sa area, horizontal strip for bar x, horizontal strip for bar y. All right, so any questions before we end our session?